Thanks for watching. Join us now with attachment unavailable.
Hello, we are back, and I hope that you can hear us a little bit better now. So I'm so sorry about that. We've just swapped our mics, so do just give me a thumbs up if you can hear us okay, and I am just going to double check that you can. So sorry if you just heard a load of crackling in that previous video. We just had a problem with one of the microphones. So I'm Sam, and I'm the Graduate Recruitment Manager here at Shoosmiths. So I'm going to start again. You won't have missed anything on our video this morning. So we're going to be talking about how to select the right law firm for you. And I'm joined by Tarnpreet, who is a future trainee solicitor at Shoosmiths. She joins us in September this year to start her training contract in the Birmingham office. Yeah. And we are filming in the Birmingham office today. So, Ty, if you just want to give me a little bit of an introduction to yourself and a bit of background on your kind of journey and how you came to be here today.
Okay, great. So, I went to study law at the University of Liverpool 4 years ago. Time flies. And in my third year of doing law, I actually applied to Shoosmiths after meeting the firm many, many times. I came to an assessment centre, really enjoyed it, which surprised a lot of people, but I really did enjoy it. Got the training contract to start this year, and then I went to go do my LPC at BPP University, which is just next door in Birmingham. I did the LPC with the LLM there, and then this is now my gap year. So currently I'm working in insurance, and then I will be off to go travelling before my training contract starts. Yep, so that's my journey.
So where are you going travelling?
USA, so I'm doing LA, New York, San Francisco, then I'm going over to Canada where my brother lives. He lives in Toronto, and then I'm coming back, and then I'm doing Italy, Spain, Barcelona, which is Barcelona, Marbella, Venice, and Rome.
Oh my goodness, wow. That's going to be an absolutely amazing trip. So a little bit off topic for our topic today, but I guess a lot of people will be wondering when would be a good time to have time out to do that sort of travelling, and whether that would be before a training contract or perhaps after your training contract before you then go into a qualified team. So you've decided to take the opportunity to do it before.
Definitely.
Why did you choose that?
Because I think I did 3 years of university, and then I did a full year of my LPC. I thought that year off would be the perfect time to kind of recharge and prepare and just go travelling before I started my career, because then I thought, if I start my training contract, I'll have the momentum to keep going and then go to NQ and then just carry on with my career. So I thought that would be the best time for me.
Yeah. I think that's a really good idea, and we see a lot of our future trainees doing that, taking some time out to travel and build up some experience before they start their training contract, because I think you're right. Once you start the momentum of training, qualifying, you just want to get stuck straight in. You don't want to have more time out. So
Definitely.
So we're talking about how to select the right law firm for you, and we're going to try and share with you some of our advice and tips on I guess what you should think about while you're doing your research. And this video will hopefully be useful for everybody who's applying for training contracts and VAC schemes, but particularly those who are really at the beginning of their studies, thinking about a career in law. So I'm just going to run through 5 themes that I think are really important for you to consider when you're starting to think about different law firms. So, and this is in no particular order. I guess really the importance and the ranking of these 5 themes, that's personal to you, and you need to decide which are the most important things to you. So I'm going to start off with the type of firm and the training contract that you'll be offered. So type of firm, you might be thinking an international firm with hundreds of offices. You might be thinking of an international firm maybe with 30 or 40 offices across the world. National firm, so Shoosmiths is a national firm. We have 11 offices across the UK. You might be considering a firm that's maybe just got 1 or 2 offices, maybe only 1 office, but they're a city firm. or you could be thinking more along the lines of a high street firm or a specialist niche area. So really that's a lot of that is dependent on the type of law that you want to do, and that brings me on to my second theme. So type of law, the area of law. Think long term. When you're making these decisions, you should be thinking not just about your training experience and getting qualified, but your long-term career and where you want to be. And of course, things do change. Circumstances change. You meet different people and you take different paths. It's never quite as smooth as you plan, but it is great to have that plan at the beginning. So thinking about if you want to qualify as a commercial lawyer, then don't choose a firm that's heavily human rights law, for example. Think about the location. So where realistically are you happy to live? And again, it's all well and good to say you're flexible, you'll go anywhere, but when it comes down to it, do you want to be close to family? Do you want to be close to friends? Are you the type of person that thrives better when you're surrounded by people you know? And again, long term, where do you want to live long term? There's always going to be opportunities for client secondments or internal secondments where you might get the opportunity to go to a different location for a short period of time. So that's an opportunity if you kind of feel like you want to try something out, but you maybe don't want to live there forever. Think about the types of colleagues and the culture of the firm you want to join. So are the colleagues the type of people that you want to spend time with socially as well as in the office? Do you get on with them? Do you want them to be approachable, motivating and supportive? And again, that is a personal choice down to you. So you rank those things in the order that you feel they are important to you. Thinking then about the outlook of the firm and what initiatives and factors are important to the firm, and are they also important to you? So it might be that a firm is driving a number of projects for environmental sustainability, or do they have a number of initiatives to increase the number of women in law in senior positions? Whatever those things are, do they reflect your values and where you can see yourself in a few years' time? And then finally, salary and the benefits package. So it is important, but certainly once you put it amongst all the other things, it doesn't really become the most important thing, I don't think. But it's a consideration that you will want to make. So I guess what I haven't said is that you're going to be looking for a firm with amazing clients, exceptional quality training, experts that are going to train you in law, and I guess that's because those things are kind of a given, but you will obviously want to do your research and make sure that they are a given at the firms you're applying to. So yeah, think about the rank and how you would order those things. So Tarn, do you want to let us know, what did you start doing when you first started looking at law firms? How did you do your research and how did you kind of go about selecting different firms?
Okay, so when I first started researching law firms, I was in my first year at university, and I honestly had no idea where to start, what a firm even does. So my number one tip for starting off would be research, and that can be done on the internet. The internet's free and it's unlimited. There are so many resources. There's forums online, there's websites like Aspiring Solicitors, lawcareers.net. There's a lot of publications that I found at my university, like chambers, student guides and things like that. And from there, I could kind of see, okay, these firms are based here, these firms are full service, these firms practice only in certain areas. So I would say that is my number one tip, is research. And then from research, you can kind of gauge what type of firm you're looking for and where you kind of might want to see yourself in the future. So then my second tip would be to take that research and go to law firms, open events, kind of insight evenings, law fairs, anywhere where you can have kind of face-to-face contact with maybe trainees, graduate recruitment, and then you can put that knowledge and that research into practice, and you can kind of gauge what a firm is like. And also you can just speak to someone and just ask them how their journey was, which is always useful. And then my final tip, which is probably the most important, I really can't put enough emphasis on this, and it echoes Sam's comments, it is reflection. At the end of the day, it's all about where you would fit as well as how the firm would see you. From my experience, I didn't begin with reflection, and I really should have. It would have saved a lot of time. And I mean reflection, so you kind of look at yourself and see exactly how Sam said, where would you want to be located, what kind of salary are you after, what kind of law do you want to kind of venture into during a career, and most importantly, what kind of culture do you want to fit into and what would work for you. So the number one tip definitely would be reflection, and kind of look at yourself and your personality, your skill set, your interest, and then use that to then tailor your approach to which firms you'd apply for, and obviously which ones you do more deeper research into. So,
and I think that's a great tip for that application form as well, because until you know yourself, how can you truly sell yourself on an application form and apply yourself to say why you want to work at a particular firm? So it absolutely is about understanding yourself first before you go any further. So how did you come to the decision that you wanted to go into a commercial law firm?
Okay, so in my first year, I went to do work experience in high street firms. I did in-house at Barclays. I did a lot of open days with international firms, national firms, and it was the kind of clientele that the commercial firms were catering to that really appealed to me. And I thought the work that they did was interesting and just would fit my personality more, as opposed to kind of working at a high street firm, which is you would have a lot of responsibility, but the type of clientele would be a lot different. But the only way that I found that out was going into the high street firms, going into the international firms with a large clientele, going into the national size firms. I went up and down the country. I went to Manchester, Liverpool, London, Birmingham, probably a few others as well, just to see the location as well. But definitely it was seeing that kind of client base and the kind of level and quality of work that was done by commercial firms that initially attracted me to that side of law. And then I went and furthered my experience over the years and did weeks in different commercial firms, and that's how I knew it really was for me. So once you'd got that experience then, so you'd gone to open days, you'd done your research, you decided commercial law was for you, and you'd, I guess, had quite a lot of law firms that you were then considering. How did you then narrow that down to the ones that you were going to apply to for kind of back schemes, training contracts? So as you said, the kind of client base and the quality of work is quite similar across commercial firms. So really it all boiled down to culture. And when I first started looking at firms, a lot of people said to me, you need to find out the culture of the firm, but I never really understood what it meant until I reflected on myself. And then I thought, okay, I want to be happy at work. I want this kind of culture. I want these kind of colleagues. And when I reflected upon myself, I then took a step further, and when I went into firms, I started asking people, the employees, are you happy at work, and what kind of social things do you do, what kind of fun events do you do? And then it was me reflecting on myself that made me realise what the culture of a law firm actually means, and how it should match my personality, should match my values. For one example being, I'm very big on diversity and inclusion. I did a lot of work during my time at university, so that was definitely a factor that I was looking for in a law firm. And yeah, I'd definitely say it's about knowing yourself and then really knowing the firm as well.
And I think once you've decided on some of those things, like even as simple as you want to be happy at work, and then being able to ask other employees at events, are you happy, and what social things do you do, and what diversity initiatives are there? I think it becomes very clear to the employer and the people that you're talking to that you've really thought about yourself at the firm and that you know yourself, because they're very telling questions. So so that's really great. So you went on to narrow it down to then 3 firms that you wanted to apply to. So do you want to tell me then how you got from 3 down to accepting at Shoosmiths?
Okay, so I applied to 3 firms, which at the time, they might not be now, but at the time they were quite similar. And I received a training contract offer from one of them, got to the video interview stage for the 2nd firm, and then my last firm was Shoosmiths. It was at the end of June. I'd just come back from holiday. I can remember I was quite tanned, and I spent a good week prepping because Shoosmiths was the first firm that I had ever met. I was telling Sam this earlier. It was the first firm that I'd ever come across, and what I found from the first ever time when I met Shoosmiths, I met Sam. I don't know if you remember this, but there was an event and we had to present, and it was the first time that I'd ever presented, and I was really bad. I was shaking, and it just wasn't a good presentation, but you were really, really, really nice. You gave really good feedback, and I thought, do you know what a nice firm, because honestly I was terrible. I wasn't very good then. As Shoosmiths was the first firm I had ever come across, and we met each other, and I'd met the firm a lot of times at different events such as National Live. I came to the Insight Evening, so I felt I knew the firm quite well, and really at the back of my mind it was a firm I wanted. So when I came to the assessment day, I was expecting it to be very high pressured, which it was, but at the same time it was enjoyable. And I'd heard a few people say to me before, if you enjoy the assessment day, then you kind of know that it's a good fit for you. But then I always thought, how can you enjoy an assessment day? You can't enjoy it. Yeah. But when I came here, the interview was great, and I could just tell that every time I'd come across the firm, it was so consistent and it matched exactly what I wanted, that I knew that if I had a training contract offered to me, that I would accept it straight away. And so after going through the assessment process, what actually happened was I changed my number from when I applied to when I was actually supposed to get the call. So I think it was a Monday, all day I was waiting, I had no call, so I was like, oh, I'm unsuccessful. But I thought, I will try again. I will try again next year, because that's how much I love the firm, and that's how much I knew the culture was the right fit for me. But turns out they had my old number, so they called me, I think it was around 8 o'clock, I was watching EastEnders, and they were like, congratulations, you've got the training contract. And I knew, as soon as I was told that it was a firm for me. Yeah. When you know, and because I reflected so hard and had so much experience, I knew that this was the firm for me, and I didn't want to go anywhere else.
Yeah, and I think that level of understanding that you had about that you knew that was the right fit for you, you can't just gain from websites. You can certainly start your research there. You can get to know us, watch these videos, which is fantastic. But really getting in and getting to know people, meeting us at Insight Evenings and various events in the course of your kind of recruitment process, that's where you decide. Okay, fantastic. So I was thinking about, I guess, the difference between how difficult it is at a law fair when you see a number of law firms all next to each other and you think everybody looks the same. It's so difficult to distinguish those differences between law firms. And obviously you do need to look at the facts, you need to look at the locations, the websites and all of that. And it might be that you say, right, I definitely want to stay in Birmingham, this is where my family are, I studied here. You might think, I want a commercial law firm, and sort of start narrowing it down that way. But if you're looking at Birmingham commercial law firms, then really you've got loads of fantastic firms here that do offer really fantastic training and great clients. So you could be looking at obviously Shoosmiths, Gowlings, DLA, Eversheds, Mills and Reeve, Pinsons. So there's loads, all based down Colmore Row in Birmingham. But then again, how do you find then the differences between those? If you know they're good training, you know that they're leading firms. So I think that's when then the personality comes in, and then you start looking at the culture and the people, and you can only really get to know the people by meeting them. So applying to Insight Evenings, VAC schemes, open days, going to university events, basically any way you can to find some sort of contact and meeting point. And Birmingham has such a fantastic sort of young professional community, and there's loads going on. We've had Chrissy Wolf on here on our Facebook Live videos before, talking about the vlogging that she does, and she runs a number of networking events, so there's loads of stuff to look into. So you don't really have an excuse for not knowing yourself and not knowing where you want to go. I think, so I wanted to ask, ask the audience whether you've got any questions for us, and you can type your question into the comments and we will come around to answering those in just a second. But before we get to that, do you have any questions that you want to ask me?
Yeah, sure. I was just wondering, what do you think as a graduate recruiter is the best way to get to know a firm above all?
Yeah, so I definitely think it's meeting in person. And I think when, for graduate recruitment, certainly, when we meet people time and time again, we build up that relationship with someone. So then by the time it comes to an assessment day, of course, you're on your own 2 feet and you've got to perform well, but we are rooting for you. And I think that having someone familiar on an assessment day to say, so if you're arriving on an assessment day and you see me and we've met a few times, you can say, hi Sam, like, and I can say good luck. It just eases you into the day, and I think counts for actually a lot more than people give it credit for. So building that relationship up in that recruitment process is definitely the top thing.
My second question would be, what kind of things do you look for in a candidate that shows that they are the right fit for the firm?
Yes, a really good question. So what am I looking for that shows that somebody would fit in? So all of our recruitment, but also all of our working life, everything that we do with clients, all our promotion criteria within the firm is all based on the firm's values. Now you might find that a lot of firms have values, they might have mission statements, and we talk a lot about our values at Shoosmiths because we really do, I guess, live and breathe them. And it runs through everything that we do, but particularly around that recruitment process for us and making sure that somebody shares the values that we have as a firm and therefore is the right fit. So our values are split down into 4 key areas. So taking initiative, being within reach and responsive, pulling together, and talking business sense. And then we have a couple of areas within each of those. So pulling together, obviously we're talking about teamwork, talking business sense, we're looking at confidence and commercial awareness, and it's ensuring that the pulling together, particularly around teamwork, cross-working, cross-office working and cross-team working, is really important to us, and understanding that you don't operate as a silo as a lawyer in this firm. You are part of a bigger firm, and I think that's really important for trainees as well, because it means that the support networks are very wide and broad for you, and that you'll be learning from lots of different people. So that teamwork element isn't just about getting the job done as a team, it goes a lot wider than that in terms of support. So I think that we're looking for people that match those values, and therefore we will know they're the right fit for us. So let's see if we've got any questions come through. If you've got a question, just type it into the comments and we will answer that for you. So we've got a question from Tom, and he says, how important is it to get a training contract seat in a practice area in which you think you may want to qualify? So I'll answer this one for you, Tom. So where I think it is, I don't think it's the end of the world if it doesn't happen, but I think it is important, especially if you've got a desire for that area, and you try it out. You need to know whether you're good at it, if you're choosing it for your long-term career, firstly, and you enjoy it. What happens if you you realise you do not enjoy it at all and it wasn't what you were expecting? So I would absolutely recommend that you try and get a training seat in an area that you want to qualify into. Funnily enough, like we don't, so when our trainees come through our training contracts, and then at the end they then have to apply for newly qualified positions, we don't stipulate that they have to have done a seat in that area of law that they want to qualify into. And for us, I guess that's perhaps a little bit different, because we've obviously seen those trainees over a 2-year period. We've seen them excel across a number of different areas. So the reliance that they are going to be good at their jobs, I guess, comes from that 2-year experience. But it's fairly rare for people to qualify into areas they haven't tried out. Thank you, Tom, for that question. So I did have a couple of questions that came through on our Instagram story before we went live today. So I want to answer those as well. So we had a question from Z, and she wanted to know, or she or he, I'm not sure, wanted to know the difference between US and UK firms. So I think probably a lot of the differences that we covered at the beginning, but including the type of work is likely to be different, and the clients would be different. So in an international firm, you're much more likely to be working with international clients. Even though we're a national firm, we still do have international clients, but for example, the need to know languages and things like that isn't maybe as strong as if you were in an international firm. The hours are likely to be different, the pay, the target hours that you put in, as well as just the general hours that you're working. You might find that there's a lot more people in international and bigger firms, and overall the culture might be different. So I would recommend that you investigate all of those options, and like we've said, find out what's important to you, and where you fit, what you prefer, I guess, UK, US or international. So Lydia also sent in a question on Instagram story, and she said, how do you tell whether a national or an international firm is for you? So again, really similar answer, I guess, but my advice would be to follow what Tarn said, but go to insight evenings, go to open days, meet the different firms and the people from those different firms, so that you can really understand what's important to you, what those places are really like. We had a question come through from Alicia on Instagram story as well, and she asked, is it harder to get a job in a bigger firm if you trained with a small one? So I think it depends on a few different things, but generally yes, I think it probably is a little bit harder. So you should, and that's why we're advising you to think long term about what your options are and where you want to be in a few years. So if you want to be at a bigger firm in the future, you know, you should be trying to get into a bigger firm for your training contract. It certainly depends on locations and the different types of trainees that are available in those locations as well, because you might find, say in Birmingham, the training is all very reputable, but the trainees or qualified solicitors do move around those firms once they're qualified and later on in their careers, because they're all very highly regarded. So yeah, again, down to personal kind of preference of where you want to be. Think about that up front. But yeah, it is a little bit harder. Is it impossible? No, of course not. And we had another question come in from, I think her name is Cindy, and she said, do we accept trainees applying with grades lower than an AAB? And yes, we do. Our minimum requirements are 3 C's at A level or equivalent, and any degree, any grade. And we do also take into account mitigating circumstances as well. There is an area for that on the application form, so you can include information about that. So I hope that's good news. It's really important to us that we're seeing a really wide pool of candidates, but of course, once you get through our stages, you still need to be performing at a level, at a high level, and demonstrating that you are the right fit and the right person for our firm.
And what I really liked about Shoosmiths,
the next stage, and this year we have introduced video interviews as well. So the video interview will then get you to the next stage, which will be assessment centre. So then on the assessment centre, you're on, you know, you've got to perform again. So it is all down to you, and you proving yourself at each stage, but certainly there's no kind of bias that will be held over from your application to later stages. Yeah, thanks for adding that, Tarn. That's really good. So let's see, we've had another question come in from Vikran, and he said he's thinking of becoming a lawyer. Any advice? So Tarn, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so I would say the best advice I can give is, if you want to become a lawyer, set your goals. For example, you might need to go to university, you might need to do work experience, you might need to apply to law, but well, you do need to apply to law firms, but you need to do your research, and once you've done that research, you can set your goals. So that's what I did. For example, I set goals. I want to work at this firm, so I need to get this sort of experience, I need to get these grades. I'd probably say that is the best advice, and experience, because even though I had no kind of connections, or I didn't know anyone that worked in law, if you are ambitious and if you really want to get there, you can make it, and you just have to persevere. You have to be resilient, because to kind of get a training contract and to become a lawyer, it is a long journey. It just doesn't happen overnight. So if a law firm might tell you no, and I've seen a lot of people, and I've felt it myself, you get disheartened, you think that you're not good enough. You are good enough. You just have to be resilient and make sure you're on track to achieve your goals, because they will only help you further when you get to that kind of assessment centre stage, to shine and just be yourself. So what do I say? Make your goals, be yourself. I know be yourself is a hard one, because a lot of people said it to me and I didn't really take it on board, but when I came to Shoosmiths, I really was myself, and I thought that's why the interview went so well. And just kind of put yourself out there, get experience, go to insight days, and that's the only way you can kind of build up your knowledge on people's different journeys and how they became lawyers and what kind of different firms they're on, things like that. So
yeah, perfect, thank you. So thank you so much for your questions today, and thank you, Tom, for joining us. I just wanted to let you know that firstly, our applications are open on our website for vacation placements and training contracts, so you can apply to those. The deadline for the VAT scheme is the 28th of February. And also we are going to be live again this week. So on Friday, so this Friday, 25th of January, I'm going to be live from our Solent office, and I'm going to be joined by Paula Swain, who is the head of our office and a partner in that location. And we're going to be talking about what it's like to work on the south coast of England in the Solent office. And I'm really excited about filming from there, because it's a brand new office. They only moved in a few months ago. So I will be also including an office tour in the video. So do keep an eye out for that. You can sign up to that event on our Facebook page under the events tab, which has got all of our future videos on there as well. A couple of the other videos that we've got coming up include how to secure an NQ role, application tips, and assessment day tips. So loads of really useful information coming up soon. So please do tune in for another Shoosmiths Live. And of course, if you've got any topics that you'd like us to cover, you can just email in and let us know. But thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.